Good evening, you guys. We have had just the craziest thunderstorms this evening, and I'm coming out here to check on the girls. How's everybody holding up? It's wet, isn't it? Yeah. Look good. Lots of storm clouds rolling over. So this afternoon really is when we did it. So this morning it rained like crazy. It was thundering and lightning, and then it cleared and it was clear skies. So we came outside during that time, cleaned out the chicken coop, and basically like as we were finishing cleaning the chicken coop, a whole new band of storms came through, and we tried to wash the chickens' feet, which we did finish. We were able to wash their feet. It started thundering and lightning. So we were able to get that done, come inside, and then of course it's just the bottom dropped out. We cleaned the chicken's feet using apple cider vinegar and water, and the idea behind that is that it kind of helps keep their feet clean because they'll just walk through their poop, and it keeps the birds healthier, cleaner, and so they reacted pretty well to it. Like, they weren't too bothered by it, and we were definitely starting to rush there at the end with the last 4 birds because the lightning started coming, but yeah, turned out pretty good. So out here, these are black-eyed peas, and there are like missing spaces here. Like, usually I have really good germination with the black-eyed peas, and I'm not seeing that out here, so I think I'm gonna come out here and replant with some new seeds because there's a lot missing. But these black turtle beans did pretty well, so there's a lot of these are just black beans is all they are, and they look pretty good, both of these rows. So we have 2 rows of black-eyed peas, one needs to be replanted. We have these black beans here, and then I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of corn, and it's Silver Queen, and we are going to do another planting, and it looks like the ones in the front came up first right here, so they're a little bit taller, and then the ones in the back here weren't getting sufficient water, so those ones just came up the other day. So it's all up now, it all looks pretty good. The only thing that looks a little rough are those black-eyed peas. There are some watermelons up, so this one I think is Black Diamond right here, so that's like a nice big melon, and then these are Crimson Sweets from Seeds and Such. The only thing is that these 2 back rows here, this one and this one, are pinto beans, and there are no pinto beans up whatsoever. So I'm not really sure why there's no pinto beans up, but they're not up. And I found a couple of them actually just sitting on the surface of the soil. So I know I planted them, I think it was 1.5 inches deep, so they must have kind of gotten washed out a little bit, but like the rows are still intact. So I don't really know what the deal is with that. So the peas have retired officially, and now we just have this space here. And there's lots of flowers in here, so also lots of mushrooms down in there. Look at all those mushrooms. But lots of petunias, tons of zinnias on the outside of this fence here. Like, I'll probably leave all of these gorgeous all these zinnias. Those look really good. We could dig those up, move them around. But I kind of need to figure out what I want to plant on the inside of this fence. So a couple of fun things going on over here is that we got our sweet potatoes planted. Now these are just Beauregard sweet potatoes, and they are in the ground. They look super good. Pretty happy with them. I think there are 6, 12, 18 slips down the middle of this row. I put down some fresh compost before planting them, and then I just used some, I think this is hay, just on top of them. To kind of help retain moisture, keep the weeds down. And I also moved our potato bags over here. So these are our Mega White Chip, Red Lesota, Yukon Gold potatoes are in these bags, in these grow bags. And I just moved them in here because the sprinkler system, I just couldn't get to them out there with the hose. So moving them over here made it so the sprinklers could hit them. And they've actually been looking a lot happier since they've been getting watered. I was trying to keep them a little bit more in the shade by keeping them over there because that tree really casts a lot of shade on that strip right there. But, you know, it's, you know, it's better to have a little bit extra sun with water than shade with no water. So something kind of cool that I've done, and I haven't really showed this, is I planted some ginger in these pots. And I have 3 pots. Each one has a ginger root in it. And I just planted it in here to see what would happen. And I know they're growing because this container here is like pushed out and it's hard. So I know that the roots have like expanded and they're pushing against the sides of the pot. So that's good. That means there's growth happening. It took a while for them to start growing, but they did inevitably start growing. And I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see what this looks like because it's an experiment. I've never grown ginger before, so this should be pretty interesting. So here are our carrots looking all sorts of lovely. I just love their fern-like tops. They're so soft and beautiful and green. So we're at the point with the carrots where they really do need to be harvested, and I will be sad to see this beautiful sea of green go because it was just so beautiful. And we'll have it for a little bit of time yet, but they are pretty much ready to all come out at this point. And ideally with carrots, it's one of those things, this is our 2nd time growing them. I am no expert by any means. But where we live here in the South, you can't grow carrots during the summer. Last year I planted them in early spring, and we had a really just like an average hot. It got hot. It was like pretty much anything that was a spring crop was done by the beginning of March, towards the middle of March. And so carrots, they went bitter very quickly. So we had some really good ones, but we also had some really bad ones. Like the ones that were good were pretty good. The ones that were bad were super bad. And that was really because of the heat. And when you read articles from people who live like up north in zone 5 or, higher, zone 4 or zone 6, in those areas, you can plant carrots throughout the summer, but we're just too hot for that. So these can handle the heat a little bit more. Like we've had some really oppressively hot days. These haven't gotten bitter. They've been okay. But what's happening is some of them are getting tough. Now we can continue to use some of these, and even some of these teeny tiny ones in here, they can be left to continue to grow. But a big bulk of these need to come out, but we can't use them all. But the idea behind them really to grow this many was for storage purpose. And what we've decided to do, what's going to be the best for us, like the most functional, is going to be storing them in sand. And that's going to be really heavy. You know, people, I was reading one person who said, buy 5-gallon buckets and store them in those so they're easy to move around. And I'm just going to kind of use what we have on hand, which are Rubbermaid, like those big buckets, and obviously those full of sand and carrots will be extremely heavy, so I'm going to put them in the garage where they're going to go, and then when I'm loading the carrots up in them, I'm going to do it in the garage, so then I'm not trying to tote around, 100 plus pounds of sand. Went to Lowe's, we bought some play sand, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a layer, like a good, inch of sand at the bottom of the Rubbermaid container, put a layer of carrots, making sure none of them touch, and then about another, inch on top of those carrots, and then do that until the tub is full. Put the lid on. That might take care of all these carrots. That might not take care of all the carrots. We'll have to see what happens. And it's kind of an experiment. And basically, when we need carrots, we'll just go outside and dig around in the sand and see what we can find. Don't really have a good place in the house. We can't really fit all these carrots in the fridge, so we're kind of at that point where some of them are starting to get woody, so we need to kind of jump into action here. But look how pretty those carrots are. Aren't they gorgeous? I'm so happy with them. I'm much happier with them this year than I was last year, because last year I planted them, like I said, in early spring, and they just were not quite as delicious. But there's a white carrot in there. There's a couple red ones. We have red, yellow, white, orange, and I don't remember what all other colors we have. But this is an example when you don't thin your carrots and you just let them go, you will end up with these little tiny ones, which is okay. It's okay to end up with little tiny ones, but yeah, carrots. So once we have some drier weather, that will be a project that needs to be tackled. The those are good. Those are starting to grow. Those are kind of taking on their season. And then out here, really what needs to happen is a whole bunch of pruning and tying up. I ran one line, one line of twine, and I never finished. So, yeah, at least I made the effort. At least I started. So I need to actually prune some of these plants and start tying plants up because they're looking a little crazy. And then I have one more row that needs to be planted with green beans, which these green beans are looking really good. I'm pretty happy with them. I don't know what that crinkly top means, if that means anything, or if that's just a lot of times when we plant them, we end up with crinkly tops. So I'm kind of like not worried about it too much, but I don't know. Is that a bad thing? The morning glories, that side didn't fill out at the base, but this one filled out lovely at the base, and it's growing up, and it's just now starting to, it grabbed onto the fence a little bit, but it's just now starting to kind of wrap around, which is like so exciting, and this side has done the same. So it's just looking really, really pretty. I'm really excited for that. Can't wait for it to cover the arbor. These, oh my word, look at these. I've never grown these before, you guys. This is my first year with eggplants, and they look so cool. They're so pretty, and they're like big. I don't know what I expected an eggplant plant to look like. I just was like, okay, here it is. So these ones look really good. I have some others that look stunted. I think they just need the weeds pulled around them, but like these ones over here look great. These are all, I think, Midnight Queen. Yeah, these are all Midnight Queen. So there's like little eggplant forming here and there. So pretty excited about those ones. The other thing that I'm not sure about is this plant here. So this plant and this plant. So right here, I planted a bunch of calendula plants. So that's what I planted over here, like an orange flower. It's like an edible version of a marigold, and you make tea out of it, but I've never planted it before. And so I don't know if that's what that is. Is that a weed? Am I just like getting a bunch of anxiety over a weed, or is this what I want it to be? Is this a calendula plant? So you'll have to let me know in the comments because I'm just not sure. It looks so pretty though. Like, it's a pretty weed. Like, it's a pretty weed. If it turns out to be a weed, I might let it grow a little bigger and then feed it to the chickens. But, yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks healthy. It's a healthy looking weed. Also made the effort to tie up some of these tomatoes along here. Some of them need to be retied. This one needs to actually be tied. There's also some basil plants in here. I ended up cutting back this, zinnia plant because it just looked really rough. It broke really bad, so I needed to just trim it up. But look at all these tomatoes, you guys. Look how fun that is. Just beautiful strings of tomatoes all over these cherry tomato plants. This one over here is a bumblebee pink cherry tomato, and you can see the striping is starting to come through, which is so exciting. These, this is dill. It's called Mammoth Dill. This is my first time having success with dill seed. I'm having a lot of firsts this year, and this is one of them, and it's my first success with having dill grow from seed. That's why whenever I'm talking to people about gardening, or when I'm just like talking about gardening in general, is just keep planting the seeds, because I saw this thing on Instagram, and I've heard stuff like this before, but this is just a great example, like the difference between a master gardener and a something gardener. Like, the difference between a master gardener and a great gardener is that the master gardener killed way more plants than the, great gardener. And it's like, that's so true. I mean, the amount of stuff, like, you just kind of get to the point where you're not afraid for nothing to happen anymore, and so you just keep plugging forward. You're like, if this does something, great, and if it doesn't, that's okay. I'll try something new there. So that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to gardening. Is just keep putting stuff in the ground and see what happens, because it may do something or it may not, and that's okay. If it doesn't do anything, okay. Can't lose what you never had. But if it does something, you might just end up with your very own dill plant, which is like really cool. And there's a lot in here, you guys. Like, I'm so excited. Now, only if I could get my pickling cucumbers and my dill to come in at the same time. That would just be impeccable. These smooth criminal squashes, I think I'm going to pull some of them out. They look I mean, on screen, they look okay, and they actually, right now, standing here, they don't look half bad. They were looking super yellow. But they're kind of stunted, and I don't know what the deal with that is. So I think I might just come in here and plant more gray zucchini, because the gray zucchini has just been knocking it out of the ballpark with summer squash. So I don't know. This one has some little plants on it, so I'll leave this one most definitely. I'll probably leave these for a while, much longer. That one just looks really sick. That one might come out. So I'll leave some of these and just like let them see what happens. But I'm definitely going to come and start just putting in more plants to try and utilize this space and take advantage of, you know, this growing space. And these marigolds out here, you guys, I've just let all the marigolds grow that have been out here, and look how big they are. They're so pretty. They're so beautiful. These big, beautiful marigolds just all over the garden, looking gorgeous. And then I'm just blown away with the beauty. And this is kind of these have been rained on, so they don't look as pretty in this state. They look a little sad and droopy. But these are orange cosmos that I planted. When did we plant these? We planted these, I think, last year or the year before, and they stayed really small, but these, I just kept pinching them, and they got so much bigger, so much fuller, so many more blooms. So I think what I'll do is actually come out here and trim off some of these and start deadheading these, I think is what I'll do to try and get them to encourage them to continue to bloom, because they just look phenomenal. They're a huge attractor. I mean, I just think they're so beautiful out here. And like I said, I feel like because they've been rained on and beat down, it doesn't really do them full justice, but they really are beautiful. And they look so good, so good. And if you look down at these stems, like look how big those stems are. Like they just look great. I'm just so happy with these. Also, something I found this morning were these. Look how beautiful these are, you guys. These are the Black Beauty tomatoes. This is from Baker Creek. So I'm very, very excited. I love dark tomatoes. I've grown black creme, and like after black creme, I've just been sold on dark colored tomatoes. I just think they're so beautiful. I'm trying Cherokee Purple again this year, but look how beautiful that is. Just that beautiful, deep. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really excited for these. So this tomato row is where I'm going to put 2 rows of green beans. They'll be Blue Lakes, I think. And I'll put down some compost and it'll go down that way and then on the other side. And this was really weedy, and my sisters came out here and weeded this out. And it looks really great now, but that didn't change the fact that it's still allowing all those weeds to creep in. It stunted these a little bit, so I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that adding this compost around the plants and getting those weeds off of them will help get these to bulk up, because these are the Black Creme, which are my tried and true that I just love, and the Cherokee Purple, which I killed last year, so I almost killed them again this year, so hopefully we'll see some good production from these rows. Check out these beautiful zucchini leaves. Aren't those beautiful? They're variegated. So these are our gray zucchini plants, and they have been producing like crazy. This is what the fruit looks like. And they produce really, really well. I've struggled with zucchini in our garden the last couple of years, and this has really just made up for all of those years where it hasn't been working out so hot. So these zucchini plants have performed wonderful for us. I absolutely love them. We had 6 plants. I lost one the other day to pickle worms, but they have performed amazing for us, and we've gotten more than enough zucchini for our family from just 6 plants. So I am going to plant a new set of these because of how well they did. I definitely want to kind of keep that carrying through the season for us, but because these plants will eventually have to come out, because they will get ridden with squash bugs, they will get ridden with pickle worms. That's just a part of growing. That's a part of the pest pressure in the summer, is that you just have to accept that you're going to lose plants. Pull them out and replant them. That's just a part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start planting out some new gray zucchinis to kind of replace these when these are spent. But I've just been very, very happy, very, very well pleased with these, and I really recommend them. So this area here has actually been really interesting because this landscaping fabric I laid down to try and keep the weeds, to try and suppress the weeds, literally just deteriorated. I kid you not. It's the weirdest thing. It like just kind of like, it just fell apart. It was the weirdest thing ever, you guys. The weeds, like the tiniest, featheriest, weakest little weed that you could just like pull up in a heartbeat like that, just ripped through this stuff. It is the weirdest thing. So this stuff just deteriorated. I don't know what the deal was with that. So that was interesting. So that's gonna have to get pulled out before these really start vining in this area. But this is all of our winter squash. So we have an entire row of spaghetti squash. We have a little spaghetti squash forming there. And then we have a slightly bigger one over here, just looking beautiful. And then to make sure we keep any sort of squash bugs or pickle worms from drilling into the fruit, we'll probably put it in a paper bag once it gets a little bigger. And then in the row next door to it, we have honeyboat squashes, which is new to us. We've never planted those before. And then right where that orange flag is, it goes into butternut squashes. So this has been really amazing to me how these have grown. So these are the honeyboat squashes, but look how cool those are. A lot of them grow 2 fruits on one stem. I've seen that constantly. So here's a fruit. Here's a fruit with another like little baby one there. There's another fruit forming there. These ones are very heavy laden with a lot of produce. Look at that one. That one's so cool. That one's a fused blossom. So it's like the fruit kind of became one. Isn't that so cool? And then we have our butternuts. So we have a butternut squash there, one poking through here. There's a really good size one right here. Look how pretty that is, you guys. And so lots more coming in towards this end one. Now, the next thing that we have over here are our pumpkins. Now, the zinnias here, I did not plant those. Those just came up. I left them. They weren't doing any harm. And some of the pumpkin plants just don't look so hot. So this row is half sugar pie pumpkins and then half Connecticut field pumpkins. And the sugar pumpkins, these are like sugar pie pumpkins, so these are gonna stay pretty small. And I haven't seen any pumpkin action happening on these plants. This end one looks really good, but some of these middle ones aren't really doing a whole lot. And up here, we have our Connecticut field ones, and I think I saw a little squash-like fruit possibly forming right here. So here's like a future possible pumpkin, Connecticut field pumpkin. There's another one in here, like right here. I don't think that one will make it. It's turning yellow. Usually when they turn yellow, they won't make it. So this whole area, not 100% sure if we'll get pumpkins or not, but I do have my fingers crossed. We actually have one pumpkin plant, and it's some sort, I think it's actually I think it's a large pumpkin. Just the reason I think that is because of how the pumpkin itself looks. But we have a vine in the herb garden, and it's got 2 decent sized fruits on it. So I'm really excited about that one. So no pumpkins out here, but we do have some in the herb garden because that's where you grow your pumpkins, obviously, is the herb garden. It's a no-brainer. So this row here just kind of turned into weeds. So originally I had planted all of these, what are these called? Cantaloupes here. And, you know, I had 1 year where the cantaloupes did really well, but that was just 1 year. I think I got 6 cantaloupes that year. And so I planted a bunch more, and they're kind of like oddly stunted. Like those ones look fine, but some of the others look weird and stunted. So there was also a ton of zinnias in here. So I really just left it alone and didn't do anything to it, as you can tell. And so it's just become very swallowed by weeds and zinnias. And every so often you'll find either like a stunted cantaloupe that just doesn't want to grow. And like obviously I imagine the weeds are probably not helping, but I mean, so this kind of just went to the weeds. So probably what I'll do is come and weed this thing out. I'll leave the zinnias for the time being, just get as much of the grass out as possible. And I might throw in some zucchini plants in here. I might throw in some okra plants over here. I don't really know what I'll do, but something will get planted over here and utilize this space. If not, just to leave it and let the zinnias have just a lot of sprawling fun over here since they seeded themselves here anyways. So our cucumbers have produced some cucumbers for us, which is lovely. I'm very happy that we got some cucumbers. So these did produce some cucumbers. We do have some jalapenos over here that have some, lovely jalapenos forming on the plants. I do need to come in here and edge and get this grass. It just grows in so fast. It's like you do it and then you turn around and you're like, I thought I just pulled all of this grass out, but it just keeps showing up and you're like, rude. The zinnia plants in here really ended up getting kind of shrouded by these petunia plants, which everything looks a little sad right now because it's super wet. It's just been like hit with the heaviest of rain that you can imagine. And then I do have a poblano pepper over here. So this is our like last, it's the one pepper that I started from seed that survived, and it looks really good, dare I say. I think it looks pretty good. So we got a poblano over here. I think that's what that was. I can't read that anymore, but I'm like super sure it was a poblano. So maybe I'll be shocked later, find out it was something different, but got that going on. And then I had gotten this amended and planted and edged and cleaned up, and I planted okra in here. And this okra plant looks a little sad. And what ended up happening is I did half Alabama Red, half Gurney's Gumbo, and then the day I planted an armadillo tore it up. So really at this point, I just haven't done anything with it because the armadillo keeps showing up and digging holes out here. So I don't really want to put anything out here that I don't want to get damaged. So I'm leaving the okra plants that have come up and they look really good. I'm really happy with how they look out here. Like this one looks beautiful. This one looks gorgeous. So I just need to kind of find a different place for the okra. The armadillo did go after our corn and beans already. He didn't do too much damage, but he is showing up out here like every night at some point. I'm assuming somewhere between the hours of 4 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere between that time frame, and digging out here all over the place. So he's left some pretty big holes, but I mean, what are you gonna do? You can't really control it. So that's why we have the garden fence. So I will probably end up planting some okra out there inside of the garden, and things like that. Also, don't think I've given you an update on these lovely marigolds around the chicken coop, making your humble abode look beautiful, you guys. So these are all marigolds I just mass planted, and they just look so pretty. I do need to come in here and edge, get some of the weeds out. Probably could thin out some of these marigolds and it would be okay. There's some collard greens over here. That is so weird. But they look really good. The marigolds over here look really good. They don't actually enjoy eating them that much, but that's okay. They look pretty. They look pretty. And one of the reasons I wanted these around the chicken coop was so I could save the flowers and dry them and use it in their bedding and use it in their nesting boxes to help prevent mites and things like that. I was thinking about you when I planted these. I thought about it. I was like, I saw somebody talking about that online, and I was like, I should do that. So I did this for you, Buffy. So the girls are actually doing pretty good. We had to put up this tarp a while back. This tarp has been up for a while. I just haven't really talked about it because the sun, faces west, and it just comes in with like some really hot sun. And so we put this up and the chickens really needed that. So I'm really glad we did that. I think if we extend off of this run, I think what I would do is I would take probably pallets or picket fencing or something and just make a wooden wall at the end. That's what I would probably do because that would make it so you could have something a little bit more permanent and sturdy than a tarp, but it would block the sun from the west. The marigolds on this side are a little more spotty, but they still look really, really good, really nice, really pretty. Yeah, and they're just all in here having a grand old time. Once again, I need to kind of weed this area up, and I also want to put down some new mulch over here because the mulch just kind of disappears into the grass over here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on this wet and rainy evening here in the garden. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a big thumbs up. Feel free to click that big red subscribe button if you want to stick around. And if you never want to miss a brand new upload, to get notifications, all you gotta do is click that bell icon. Feel free to comment down below. I absolutely love hearing from you all. It really means the world to me. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys